16b. 16b. Well, yeah, but what happens with the 15 and 16? They don't want to write Yud and Hey. That's Hashem's name. So they do 9 and 6. And so it looks like it's 16 through 15. And then for 16, they do 9 and 7. So it starts over here. It says Kadesh Yelamayim. It says that they would put the ash, not the ash. I'm sorry. They would put the dust from the floor. They would lift up. Oh, thank you. They would lift up the. Hashem. We're able to learn every day. It's also a learning. Speak some English immediately. So they would lift up the this a stone, a tablet from the floor, which had a ring in it. They would lift it up. They would take dirt from underneath it, and they would put that dirt into the water, and then they would erase the scroll in. So it says that you should put in that it should be seen on the water. Tanur Rabbanan, there's 3 things that actually need to be seen. What is this? So this is the Brisa. It says the first one is, we're on the towards the top. Afer Saita, or not Afer, Afar. Afar Saita, the dirt of the Saita, which means the dirt from the floor of the temple that they would put into the water for the process of the Saita. Afer Para, the ash of the Paraduma, this is the red heifer that they would burn. V'raik Yavama, and the spit of the Yavama. The Yavama is the woman that has to marry her brother-in-law because her husband passed away. And if the brother-in-law doesn't want to marry her, so she does chalitza. So when she does chalitza, she has to spit. Now that spit needs to be seen by the elders when she spits. Yeah, my wife's grandmother would talk about the chalitza that happened after the war. The rabbi, it must have been in the DP camps or whatever. The rabbi says in German, "Collect your spit," because she has to collect. But the expression was like a funny. I don't even remember. Spayachs or something. Collect your spit. So it has to be seen. It has to be visible. Mishum Rabbi Shmuel Amro. In the name of Rabbi Shmuel, they added another one. He says, Afdam Tzipar, also the blood of the bird of the Mitzayra. When the Mitzayra is purification process. What do you have there? You have I'll see soon.
Bird. What kind of bird?
They said that it was a sparrow.
It's a sparrow. There's 50 pages on sparrows of all sizes and shapes.
Oh, wow. So in the spring, the male lark bunting is unmistakable, but in winter, it's streaked like the female. Okay, all of this is sparrows?
Yeah, to the right. All pages are on different kinds of sparrows. The argument there is whether it's big enough, how much blood there is.
How much blood would be in the sparrow? It's a good picture. Yeah. Show that. This is the sparrow.
Is this the bird that is made in New York? And that's why the subway one that New York.
Turns out there are hundreds of kinds of sparrows.
That's why I'm asking the question. I didn't know.
That's a whole family of birds.
It was related.
Colors.
They were all related. They used to be called sparrow cats.
Washington, great. Okay. So that blood needs to be seen according to Rabbi Yishmael. My time with the Rabbi Yishmael. What's the reason for Rabbi Yishmael? It says the ksiv v'tavalaisam b'dam tzipar. See, what they're going to do is the pasuk says that they're going to take the there's actually two birds, right? One of them is slaughtered, and the other one is sent away. But before it's sent away, the wing is dipped into the blood of the. They have to take a cedar wood and the hyssop, the scarlet thread, and the living bird, and they dip them into the blood of the slaughtered bird and into the water. And then they would sprinkle that if it was on the house or on the person, whatever was tummy. Well, it says they would dip them into the blood of the bird. Tanya, and it was taught in the Brisa, bedam, it says into the blood. Yachal bedam, maybe you only use blood, not water. So Tamalayim b'mayim. Pasuk says that you dip it into the water. It says b'mayim machayim, and into the water. Maybe only the water, not the blood. It says the blood. So Hakket said, how do you do both? It says, well, that's easy. Maybe mayim shadam tzipur nikabem. You bring enough water that you bring not enough. You bring a minimal amount of water that the blood should still be visible. Shouldn't be totally diluted. That way you can dip it into both. Yeah, well, actually, we're confusing a few things there.
Yeah, they're not all together.
The spit was by the chalitza. That we're not doing here.
Okay. Oh, no blood.
The Sota is only water, dirt, and erasing the parchment. By the Mitzayra, you have the wood, the grass, and the blood and the thread, and you're going to dip the second bird into the blood of the first bird and into the water. The kama, how much blood?
Is that a Matzor who's also a Sota, or just
Yeah. I don't know what it means over here. The kama means how much blood or how much water. It says revius. How much water? That makes sense. How much water?
Blood.
Put that pencil.
That was just blood.
Right. Right. How much water? It's going to be a revius. For Rabbanan, what do the rabbis do? You see, what happened over here was the rabbi said there's only 3 things that need to be visible, not 4. Rabbi Shmuel said 4. So now we have a explanation for Rabbi Shmuel, the 4th one, which is the blood. And we even have a verse that supports it. So what do the rabbis do with that verse? That pasuk is needed just to tell me that you need water and you need blood. That's not telling me that it needs to be visible. Because this is what Hashem is saying. You have to dip it into the water, into the blood, and it doesn't matter if it's visible or not. Rabbi Yishmael, maybe the Rabbanan are right. What does Rabbi Yishmael do? Simkain, if the Rabbanan were right, then it would have said, Lichtev Rachmana v'taval bahem, should dip into them. You see, what happened was the verse before this says that you slaughter the bird into the earthenware vessel, onto the living water, onto the mayim chayim. So we already have blood and we already have water. So once you already mention the blood and you mention the water, and then you don't have to say blood and water a second time. It's already mentioned in the verse before. So you just have to say dip it into them. Doesn't have to repeat it. So bedamu b'mayim lamali, why does it have to repeat it? It could have used the pronoun. It says liniker, repeating it to tell me that it needs to be visible. Okay? Now Rabbi Shmuel sounds like he's right. For Rabbanan, what did the Rabbanan do with that? Right? They could have said bahem. It says ikas rachmana v'tavel bahem. Who would have said to dip in them using the pronoun? Havamina hayluchudei v'hayluchudei. I could have thought that they have the water in one vessel and I have the blood in the other one, and you dip it into both of them. 2 dips. That's why it says into the blood, into the water, to tell me that they were mixed, and you do 1 dip into both of them. For Rabbi Yishmael, okay, now the Rabbanan are right. So what does Rabbi Yishmael do? To mix them, that we already know from another source. It says it says you slaughter the bird onto the water. It's already mixed. How could the Rabbanan even say that you're doing it into separate vessels? The Rabbanan, Rabbi Shmuel's right. What do the Rabbanan do about that? Imeahu, if that's the case, hava mina lishchate samach lamana v'naktina levridim lekabel adam b'mana achrina. Could have thought that you shecht it over the vessel, but you squeeze the veins so that the blood doesn't go out, and you put the blood into a different vessel. Kamash Malan, it comes to tell me that no, it's all in the same vessel. So it needs to say v'dam, not to tell me that it needs to be visible, but to tell me that it's all in the same vessel. Follow? Thought this was going to end with. You're also right. Okay. Yomi asked Reb Zera a question. Reb Yirmiyah is a student of Reb Zera, and he's famous for asking questions that are like borderline. Let's say it's halfway. What happens then? So he has a question like this. It says, "Gedoyla u'madachas esamayim." If it's a big bird and it pushes away the water, in other words, there's so much blood that there's no water there. There's no water, but you can't see the water. Or it's so small and it's pushed away because of the water. Mahu, what's the din? Malay, so Reb Zera says to him, didn't I already say to you, don't let your soul go to other things other than to halacha, which means that stick to the practical cases and not to the theoretical possibilities.
Right, when I read that, then I thought, what size is the sparrow? That's what I brought in these books.
Oh, so now he says, Reb Zera concludes, the cheaper drar with this wild bird, which we're translating as a sparrow because it can't be domesticated. Shira Rabbanan, the sages estimated that that there is no bird that's big enough that it will be too much for the water, or that it's too small that the water, revius of water would totally dilute it.
Right. So each one of these birds, they talk about the size of it. It's 5.5 inches by 8 inches. But there are a few that are large, like a hawk type bird. They call it sparrow. Jack Sparrow is the Caribbean guy. Yeah. Yeah. Pirates of the Caribbean.
Is that the actor? That's the name of the guy.
Like One-Eyed Willie.
Okay. Oh, I remember Treasure Island. That was his name.
Caribbean type.
Excuse me, what is that?
Reb Zera.
Yeah.
The problem is Reb Zera is probably under Israel
Yeah.
because he moved to Israel.
Go to Rabbi Yochanan in Israel and then go down to Zera and up a little bit to left.
Yeah.
So he's another one that's after time.
Oh yeah,
He never saw
right.
this. The question I want to know is, we were talking about Rabbi Shmuel, who's at the time of Rabbi Akiva.
Yeah, right.
How did we jump all of a sudden to Amoraim in Israel?
Yeah, that was quick.
Yeah.
We jumped many generations.
These discussions are timeless.
There you go.
That statement is timeless.
Okay.
In several ways, I mean, it's timeless because you have people
I'm gonna
discussing
miss you
topics
now.
about who lived hundreds of years apart.
Right. Right. I guess what Dr. Stein was
Still
saying is
drive
that
down every morning. Still drive every morning.
what's interesting here is that Reb Zera is telling Reb Yirmiyah to stick to the practical,
Right.
and even though it's totally not practical, because but what he means is what's practical, what would be practical according to the halach, and even though right now they're not doing this process. Taner Rabbanan, thought in the Brisa. Hiktim offer lamayim. If you put the dirt into the back to the site here. If you put the dirt into the vessel before the water, you're supposed to put the water in first and then the dirt on top. But if you put the dirt in first, it says puzzle. The Tanna Kama holds that it's invalid. It means you have to empty it out and get new dirt, put the water in first, and then add the dirt on top. Reb Shimon says, no, it's not a problem. You put the dirt in first, that's fine. My time, the Reb Shimon, what's the reason for Reb Shimon? What's his support? We learned that, what did the verse say? The Mishnah says clearly, you have to put it on top of the water. How does Reb Shimon say that you don't have to? So it says the Ksiv because he has another verse. We're jumping to the paraduma, the red heifer that's burnt. It says, he takes for the impure person, takes from the dirt of the burnt chatas, the sin offering. It's called the sin offering, even though it's the red heifer. Vitanya in the Brisa says, Amar Reb Shimon. Reb Shimon explains, is it the dirt? It's the ash. It's not dirt. Why does it say dirt? Well, the offer and afer is almost the same word except the first letter. One's an ayin and one's an aleph. So, but it's still a different word. One is ash and one is dirt. So Shina Kasab b'mashmai, the pasuk changes it. Its intention, ladanim and exer shavit, just to be able to get out a verbal analogy out of it. It changes the word to be able to learn to something else. Nemar kan offer v'nemal offer. Over here it says dirt, and over there it says dirt. Just like over here, it's the dirt is on top of the water. Also over here, the dirt is on top of the water. The dust is on top of the water. Makan hiktim offer lamayim kosher. Aflala and hiktim offer lamayim kosher. Now, just like by the red heifer, if you put in the dust could be used for ash or for dirt. That's a better word. If you put in the dust before the water, it's kosher. So too by the Sota, if you put in the dust before the water, it's also kosher. Now, where did we get this from? Because of the word, it says offer instead of afer. This is all Reb Shimon explaining himself.
So they're supposed to stir the dirt with the water, or just stays because in
I'm
general,
not sure what's going to happen
if
later.
you put a cup of water and you put either one on top,
It's going to float.
it's going to float. Because
Right.
one's organic and one's, so they don't really mix.
The ash will the ash be different than the dirt?
No,
No, they
either
should be
one.
Both will be on top.
It's like the difference between salt water and sugar water. Salt right away will dissolve. Because it's only the organic, constant method. But sugar is organic. You got to stir, otherwise it keeps on separate. That's all. Just wondering. The dirt, if you start off with water, the dirt's just going to sit.
Okay. I think that's okay. So far what we learned is that it sits on top. Okay, so we have this Gzeir Shava. The Gemara made a Gzeir Shava that just like by the Paraduma, you're allowed to have the dust before the water. So too, the verbal analogy tells us that by the Sota you can have the dust before the water. The only problem is that all of this was made on an assumption that that by the Paraduma you could do the dust before the water. But Hassan Minal and the Gemara says, how do you know over there that you're actually allowed to? It says, Trei Krai Ksivi. It says two psukim. Ksiv Alav, Alma Efer Beresha, Ksiv Mayim Chaim Al Keli, Alma Mayim Beresha. You see, the verse actually says, you should take for the impure person from the dust of the burnt offering, and you should place on it water, living water, into the vessel. Sounds like you're putting the dirt in first. And then it says that you put Mayim Chaim Al Keli, says the living water into the vessel. That means the living water goes directly into the vessel, that the dirt is not first. So from the word alav, it looks like the water is going on top of the ash. From Mayim Chaim Al Kelly, it looks like the water is going directly in, and the ashes would go on top of that. So Ksiv alav, that sounds like the dust is first.
But we know they're doing the paradum was ashes,
Right, and it's ashes.
but the word is aqua.
Right. The Rav
So
Shimon
therefore,
explains
you-
why did we switch the word from ash to afar to be able to learn from there to Saita. It's written slightly differently to be able to get a Zeir Shav out of it. Okay, Tzad, so how do you fulfill both of these verses? Ratzazeh, Naisen, Ratzazeh, Naisen. You can do either one. You can put this one in first, you can put this one in first. It's coming to tell me that option. The Rabbanan say no. The Rabbanan say El Kelly Dafka. Allah is La Arvan. The Rabbanan say no. When it says Mayim Chaim El Kelly, that means the water needs to go in first. And why does it say Allah? You put the water on it, because over there you have to mix it in. The ash needs to be mixed with the water. Ve'im alav dafka ve'el Kelly shit. Ve'im alav dafka El Kelly shetech yusam bekeli. Maybe we should do it the opposite. Maybe we should say that Allah is the one that's very specific. That you have to put the ash in first, and you put the water on top of it. Why does it say Mayim El Kelly? El Kelly. It's coming to tell me that when you go get the water from the spring, you have to use this vessel. You can't take it from a different vessel. This has to go in directly. So you would take the ash with the vessel and use that to draw new water, to draw fresh water. So maybe that's what it means, but the ash has to go in first. The Gemara says, Gemara says, no. This is according to the Rabbanan. Just as in every place, we always find that the machshir, one that makes it suitable, one that makes it usable, is above. What do I mean every place? Well, by the Saita, we know that at least this is according to the Rabbanan's view, the Saita, the dust goes on top. By the blood of the bird, of the Mitzaira, the blood goes on top of the water. So too, by the ash, we'll say that the ash goes on top of the water, not the ash in first and the water after. Afkan Machshel Maila, also here, by the ash, we're going to have the ash on top of the water. Okay, we're on top of Yud Zayin. Yesterday's daf and new Mishnah. He's going to write the Megillah, the scroll. Where does he start? Let's read it in the text. We can discuss it. I'm in Bamidbar 5, and it's this is but start from verse 19. Verse 18 is the priest moves the woman from place to place to tie her out and stand the woman before God at Nicanor's gate. Okay, he should uncover the hair on the head of the woman. He should place the remembrance of the. Okay, verse 19. The priest should then place her under oath, saying to the woman, if a man has not slept with you, and you have not gone astray to become defiled to another in place of your husband, then you will be absolved through these bitter, afflictive, waters. Okay, this started with the priest should then place her under oath, saying to the woman, if a man has not. That's how it starts. But verse 20 continues, but if you have indeed gone astray to another instead of your husband and have become defiled, and you have allowed another man beside your husband to sleep with you, then you will choke. That's added in by the. Yeah, that's added in. The priest should then make the woman swear an oath. He adds in, and there's a pasuk Kaf Aleph. Makes her swear an oath that contains a curse. In Hebrew, the curse over here is called Allah. The priest should say to the woman, may God make you an example of a curse uttered within an oath among your people, when God causes your thighs to rupture and your belly to swell. For these bitter afflictive waters will enter your innards, causing also the belly of your adulterous partner to swell and the thigh of your partner to rupture. The woman should say Amen, Amen to accept the oath. Then the priest should write these curses on a scroll and erase it in the bitter waters. Okay, so it says that he's supposed to write the curses on a scroll. What exactly is he writing? So we start like this. Ve'im loishachav ish, which is the beginning of, right after it says in verse 19, im loish, it says the priest should then place her under oath, saying to the woman, if a man has not slept with you, that's where it starts. Im loishachav ish, and v'goyim etc. Va'at kishatis tachas ishech. That sounds like verse 20. Correct? Yes, that's verse 20. And if you have gone astray, he writes that as well. But he skips the words, the Kayan makes the woman swear. That's not the actual oath, that's just the instructions. Right? But and he does write, Itin Hashem Esach La'ala, verse 21. That's not in verse 19. That is in verse 21. He does write that Hashem should make you as an example of a curse, and for an oath of all that the stomach should explode and
Yitin Hashem is in the middle of
it. Yeah, but it is in the middle of a pasuk,
okay.
but it's the middle of pasuk 21. So we started in verse 19. He writes 20, and he writes 21, but he skips the words of Bishbiakayim. But he does not write the end of it. It doesn't say that the woman says Amen, Amen. That's not part of the curse. That's just she's accepting. That's the Tanakama's view, which we'll see is Reb Meir. Reb Yosi Aimer Lehaya Mafsik. Reb Yosi says you just write it straight through. But you get until Amen, Amen, and you don't write that. But you do write V'shbiakayim Isha. Including Amin Amin, according to Rabbi Yosi. Including Amin Amin. Rabbi Yehuda Aimer Kol Atzmei Yena Kaiser. He says you only write the curses. You don't write in if you're innocent and all of that. Ella Yitin Hashem Esach La'ala Shvua Obama Mayim Ma'ara Ma'ela B'Me'ayach. You only write just exactly the curse itself, that the water will come into you and explode, right? And he doesn't write the end that the woman responds. So we have basically who's writing the most over here is Rabbi Yosi is writing the most, Rabbi Yehuda is writing the least, and the Tanakama is writing somewhere in the middle. You're dropping a few things. Tanakama Vishbia and Amin Amin. Yeah, I think you need a special cipher there. I haven't practiced. Yeah. No, in this section, it also has Hashem's name. It says that Hashem will place. In the verses, it has Hashem's name. Yitin Hashem Isach. Says Hashem is Yirich. The fellow says twice Hashem's name. Yeah.
Is this the only example of where we write religious stuff
on parchment?
That's what I mean, parchment.
Oh.
As opposed to cloth.
No, it's cloth. I think it was written on cloth.
It is cloth.
That's what I haven't practiced.
Wait, cloth is from an animal.
Yeah, it was written on an animal.
Like grass and water. And
No.
Papyrus.
Wait for the next Mishnah. You'll see it in the next Mishnah.
You didn't skip far enough.
The Micah Miflagi. What is the machlokes over here between Tanakama, Rabbi Yosi, and Rabbi Yehuda? They're arguing about Pshat and the pasuk. It says, what verse was that? Verse 23. that the Kohen writes these curses into the scroll. Reb Meir Savar, Reb Meir says, Alois, curses, Alois Mamish, that's the curses. It says, Ha-Alois, the extra hey, definite article. Ha-Alois, L'Rabbis Klolis Abayis Machmas Brachas. This is coming to include the first part, which says that if you're innocent, then you'll be clean. Now, what that means is that if you're not innocent, then you won't be clean. But then the pasuk goes on, says if you're not innocent, then you won't be clean. But the fact that it says it one way tells me the opposite also. So you're right, that is. That's how this is coming to include that. Eila, these, well, that's the Mu'ute Klal Shemishna Torah. That means that you don't have to write what it says in Mishnah Torah. What do we think it says? Mishnah Torah. Are we talking about the curses in the Teichacha? Is that what it says? In the yeah. Now, what does it mean? Why doesn't it mention Leviticus curses? I'm not sure. Okay, whatever the case is, you don't have to write that into the scroll. Is that an answer? Ha'ala, I'm sorry, not ha'ala, ha'ela. These, lema'ute savois v'kabbalas amen. It's coming to exclude the instruction and also her acceptance. So we have Eila, which is excluding the curses in Mishnah Torah and Deuteronomy. Ha'ela is excluding those details of the instructions that the Kohen makes her swear, and also that what she responds. Rabbi Yosi Kulu Kedakamer Teresa says exactly as you said. You have to write all the curses, and an S, when it says S, is L'Rabbis Tzavais v'Kabbalis. It says Esa Aleis Eila. These, that S, according to Rabbi Yosi, is coming to include that you also have to add in the instructions and also the Kabbalah. Reb Meir, going back to the first opinion, Esim Leidarish, he doesn't dash in the word S, so therefore he leaves out the instructions and her response. Rabbi Yehuda Kulu b'meyuti darsh, Rabbi Yehuda says all of them are coming to exclude. See, in the first, in what Reb Meir was doing, it says Alais ha'alais are coming to include. Rabbi Yehuda says exactly the opposite, it's coming to exclude. Alais mamish, only the actual curse. Ha'alais mute klaus abais machmas brachas. He's actually taking out the curses that come, that's implied from the blessing, which means the blessing was that if you are innocent, then you'll be clean. It says you don't have to do that because it says ha'alais, the extra hey, the definite article tells me that you don't do that. And yeah.
I don't understand. We're always having these arguments between yes. It's like us. We're all in the same class. We're all learning from Rabbi Akiva, and then they walk out, and it's like none of them agree with each other. Then they all learn the same thing from Rabbi Akiva. This is kind of a repetitive thing. No, Rabbi says this, Rabbi Yehuda says this. Like, hey, you're the same Rabbi. I don't understand.
Rabbi Akiva actually
This was his. This was his 5:30.
right. Read.
Seven.
Excuse me, if you don't speak loud enough, I won't hear a word.
One of the translates was 5 and then it talks about the around 400.
I'm not familiar with that, but if they heard it directly from Rabbi Akiva, then of course they can't change what they heard from Rabbi Akiva. the assumption is that you heard from Rabbi Akiva that this pasuk teaches me, this and this rules, and that we have a drasha in these pasukim, and then each of them come in and say, okay, this must be what the teacher meant. They understood from
More interpreting what it said, not necessarily repeating what it said.
I'm just trying to imagine you all leave this room and say to Moshe, what did I say?
You don't wait till you leave the
Somebody
room.
else
You
is there,
start.
the professor says something else. It's like, were we all in the same class? It's always bugging.
Okay. So, and Eila, according to Rabbi Yehuda, is Lamute Klalish Mishnah Torah, is excluding the curses in Mishnah Torah. And Ha'ela is Lamute Tzavos for Kabbalah is coming to exclude the instructions and also what she accepts. So everyone is learning this pasuk slightly different. Basically, what do you do with these extra letters and words? What do you do with that? Does it include? Does it exclude? Does it half include? Half exclude? Gemara says, Reb Meir, according to Reb Meir, Maishna Hai Hey. The Marbi Bay, Maishna Hai Hey, the Mamet Bay. When it came to the Hey of Ha'alis, the curses, it says, oh, that's coming to include also the curses that come out of the blessing. Include that has to be written. When it came to the Hey of these, Ha'ela of these, then it's coming to exclude the instructions and also the Kabbalah. Why is one Hey coming to include and one Hey coming to exclude? Where says, oh, that's an easy one. Hey, the Gabe de Ribuya. Ribuyahu. If the hey is next to something that's including, like Alais was an inclusion already, so the hey is coming to include more. Hey, the Gabe de Miyuta. When it says Ela, that's an exclusion, and then it says Ha-Ela, so then that's a Miyuta, that's an exclusion. Depends where, in what context it is. Yeah, it's all relative. Leslie the Rameyer Mechlal Labat Shmeahain. Throws in a question from another Masechta over here. It says that when you make a stipulation, according to Rameyer, you have to say both ways. You can't derive from a negative. You can't derive the positive. You have to say it out when you're making a stipulation. Notice, if you do this, then this, and if you don't do this, then it won't. You have to say both ways. You can't just say it one way and say that it's understood. So why over here does Reb Meir say that you have to write into the curses that if you're innocent, then you'll be clean? And we're deriving from that a curse. According to Reb Meir, you don't derive a curse from that. Amar Reb Tanchum says, not hinake, but it says hinaki ksiv. Do you have hinaki or hinaki? You have hinaki there. So hinaki ksiv, but the way it's being explained is that hinaki, that he will choke, that she will choke. That's why they added that in, and that she will choke. Hinaki. Maybe that's where they got it from.
With derogatory.
I don't know where that's. I don't know the source of that. It says hinaki, you will be absolved through these bitter, afflictive waters. That word absolve is actually, if you say it with the ches, it would mean strangled, right? This is a proof that they had like a Russian accent. Happy. Okay. Darish Rabbi Akiva taught Ish v'Isha, very famous Gemara. A man and a woman, Zachu, probably the most popular drash at Sheva Brachas. The 7 speeches plus 7 days of speeches. Someone is going to mention this one. Ish v'Isha, a man and a woman, Zachu, if they merit, Rashi explains that if they go in the straight path, none of them commit adultery. Then Shechina Beinayim, the Shechina is amongst them. Loi Zachu, but if they don't merit, Eishei Chaltan, then they get consumed by fire. And because we're going to see in a second why. Amar Rava.
Is the only place in Gemara where it mentions this?
That's what it appears. They don't quote it anywhere else. Right. What it's based on here is that the word ish has a yud in it, and the word isha has a hey in it. But if you take out the yud and the hey from both of the names, you're left with Aish, which means fire. So Amar Rava says with the Isha Adifa mi the Ish, it's more significant the woman's behavior than the man's. My time, why are you saying that? It says hi mitzaref, ayla mitzaref. By the woman, it already says Aish. It just has a hey at the end, which made it Isha. But by the man, it never said Aish. It always said Ish. There's a yud in between the aleph and the shin. So that's why the woman is closer to the fire than the man's behavior.
She's got fire inside of her anyway.
Yeah. Amar Rava. Rava says, "Mepnei amra Torah havi afar l'saita." Why does it say that the saita should have dirt in the water? Why are they adding the dirt to the water? Stone soup. Naftali, did you read that as a kid? Stone soup.
Sully
Remember that one? The book, the kid's book, Stone Soup. It was about this boy that needed something to eat. So he said, he tells this lady, all I need is a stone, a pot of water and a stone, and I can make you soup. It says a little flavor, you add in a little of this, a little of that.
Yeah.
I think that was the first one.
Oh, really? It's not a good kid's book because although it's funny, but the kid's lying the whole time. It's like a very dishonest. Anyway, my wife doesn't like it. Why do you bring the dirt? Well, if she merits, ben Avram Avinu. If she merits, then she'll have a child like Avram. Because it says by Avram, it says, I am but dust and ashes. That's why we're putting the dust in there. But if she doesn't merit, she returns to dust. Darish Rava taught. In the merit of Avram saying that he is dust and ashes, his children get 2 mitzvahs. What are those 2 mitzvahs? And we're going to say that they're beneficial mitzvahs. That Efer para, it's the ashes of the paraduma which causes cleansing, and Va'afar Saita, and the dust of the Saita, which also causes that there now becomes peace between husband and wife because she's seen that she's clean. The Gemara says, yeah.
It's interesting. On mine, I'm thinking this story is here because Upher and Afer, we were just talking of it. Yes? Is
Right.
that the
That's what
connection?
it sounds like.
But I'm saying to myself, no, maybe it's because we were just talking about Isha and Isha with the Yud A, and Abraham and Sarai, their names were changed because of the A coming together. You know, I'm just saying, we also have another connection, which is much nicer than the other way. And I don't do that because you said
Very
your wife
interesting.
doesn't like the book.
Okay. Very good. The economy Afar Kisei Adam. What about the blood of the dirt that's used to cover the blood? That's also dirt. Why don't we say that that's also something that we merited to? It says Hasam Hechsher Mitzvah Kahana Leka. That is something that you're supposed to do. I'm not sure why it's called Hechsher Mitzvah. But he says that's something that you're supposed to do, but you don't have any benefit from that. See, the other ones you get benefit from. You get cleansed by the paraduma. You have peace between husband and wife because of the Saita water. But over here, what happens when you do this mitzvah? You do the mitzvah. But it's not like a benefit in the merit of this, then we have a benefit. Darash Rava taught. In the merit of Avram Avinu saying to the king of Sidon, right? He says, I won't take from a thread until to a shoelace. It was supposed to be understood. Chut meant like something that's a thread that's used on the head. Shochnal is a shoelace. Like from head to toe, I'm not taking anything from you. So the children merited 2 mitzvahs. What are the 2 mitzvahs? Chut shel tcheles is the thread of the tzitzis, the purple wool. Ritzua shel tefillin, and the strap is referring to, is in that merit we have the straps of tefillin. Bishlam Ritzuah Shel Tefillin. What's the benefit of the, because we kept saying that this is a beneficial mitzvah. What's the benefit of the tefillin? That the nations of the world will see that the name of God is upon you. And Vitanya Rabbi Lezer Gadol says, Elu Tefillin Shabaresh. This is the head tefillin, but instills fear into everyone else. What do you get from chut shel tchelis? Okay, you wear tzitzis. I know that's a mitzvah, but what benefit do you get from that? It says the Tanya, thought in the Brisa, your Reb Meir would say, why is the purple wool? Why is that different? Just because it's purple, what's so special? They said tchelis. I'm calling it purple. It's probably blue, sky blue, black. I don't know. They said tchelis daimiliyam, because the tchelis is comparable to the sea, which is blue. The yam daimilirakia, and the sea is comparable to the sky. It's a reflection. Sky. Rakia daimilirakia covered, and the sky is similar to the throne. It's like the sapphire.
Sapphire.
No way, really?
That's from my local jeweler. Asked him.
Is that really sapphire?
Yeah. You have to hold it up to the light, they said, to make it look blue.
Oh
Otherwise
yeah,
it's
no. Well,
blue
you
to
see
dark.
from the bottom, you see that it's blue. Oh wow.
That's the chelis originally.
I guess it looks similar. It looks similar from this to that to this to that. It's a bunch of similarities.
So that's
That's
the
sapphire also?
throne looks like the throne of God.
I guess so.
Really old is.
Really.
What are we looking at, Professor?
Look at the light.
The sapphire.
Oh, yeah.
That's the clarity of the
You
blue.
said this was the color of the tchelis?
Yeah, that's what the analogy is, right?
Ksiv, Kamari Evan Sapir Dumasakise, that the throne is comparable to the sapphire stone.
I have a problem. I
Okay.
have a problem with me. Too many problems. Having problems.
No.
Well, okay. This analogy, it does make sense. If you're going to go to saying the straps of the tefillin, I would think you go to the hands, which really is where you're seeing straps and straps and straps.
Could be.
You're saying, yeah, but here they're saying, no, it's too a rush. And there you see the rush part, and the strap is going behind your head.
Wow.
So you don't really see the straps.
Wow.
So with the analogy,
That's a very good question.
yeah, Shem said you see my back.
I'll tell you, I think the answer is like this. We got from this a mitzvah, that in that mitzvah there's a benefit to it. It doesn't have to be exactly that strap. Just like by the saita. What's the benefit of the dust that goes into there's no benefit from the dust in the saita. There's a benefit from her now being in the name of Hashem, this, and now she's able to go back to her husband. There's no the ashes.
The ashes.
It's not exactly that, but you got the package because of that. So also the tefillin, you got the
Can't hold up.
we merited the tefillin shabaresh because of the strap.
I can hold it up.
Just thinking, the knowledge of what gastropod produced the dye for Palis must already have been lost by the time of Gomorrah. You don't need this analogy to mineral.
I don't think so.
Don't think that's right.
No, I think
Then what's the point?
I think that it's telling you, why does the Torah say that you should have tchelas? So, because tchelas looks similar to the sky, and the sky looks similar to the throne of Hashem.
Looks similar to the
Which
ocean,
is sapphire.
Which looks similar to
Right.
sapphire.
Right. You're asking, why can't you just go directly to the? Because this tchelas looks like the throne of Hashem. Could have just said that. The tablets were also. Maybe it doesn't actually look similar to this. Maybe this looks similar to this, and this looks similar to that. That looks similar to this, but if you would try to take the outer ones, possibly it's not comparable. Maybe the tchelas itself is not really comparable to the throne of Hashem. It's only similar to one, which is similar to another, which is similar to another. Which that.
Ever heard the parable about how do you teach a blind man the color of light?
Okay. You ready for the new Mishnah? It says, "Eina kaisev." You don't write layal aluach. You can't write it on wood. Layal niyar. You can't use papyrus or grasses, right? Paper. In those days, it wasn't shmatas and it wasn't wood pulp, right? It was grasses that they glued together. Layal diftera. Diphthera is a parchment that hasn't been tanned, so it would be just like a leather without the. They would put on it gall. What is it? Rashi says galls. I forget how do they translate it? Gall nuts. Yeah. Okay. Ella ala Megillah. Rather use regular cloth on a Megillah. Shenemar basefer. Says, what was the pasuk? It says, "V'kasav esa olis eila hakayin basefer." The kohen writes this into the scroll. Ve'ina kaisim, and he doesn't write leiba kumas. Kumas is a type of sap or gum from a tree, and it's talking about the ink. Leiba kankantam, and not with vitriol. I'm quoting that from Rashi. I don't know what the translation is.
It says ferrous sulfate.
Ferrous sulfate, okay. And and you can't use anything that's going to leave a mark after it's erased. Ela b'diyai, you have to use ink. Now, what is ink? Rashi says it's a type of sap. Diphthera is a hide. Rather, you use a parchment instead. You don't use a untanned hide. Diphthera is they put salt on it and they put that flour on it, but they didn't use the gall. They use ink. It has to be ink that's able to be erased. When it says about the ink for this, is this the same ink that you're supposed to use for tefillin and Sifrei Torah? Right, it has to be erasable. Amar Rav, I remember reading somewhere like it was a display of Sifrei Torah or something. It has to use ink that's not erasable. It's like, no, that's something's wrong there. It's the ink that is erasable.
Yeah. Would this happen in your knowledge? The ink would dissolve off the cloth.
Yeah, when you take the ink off, there's no mark.
It would dissolve, but it would dissolve in.
Oh, yeah, it
liquid.
yeah.
So if a Sefer Torah
It has
was
water
also
on it.
shalom in the rain and
It's
just
ice.
out there,
Nothing left. You don't wash it off.
Does the check come off like shaking vibration?
From it, yeah. When you bend it, it cracks.
and when the guys take the they go like that over the three rows and set in between.
Any comment on that?
I was told you got. told
Be
not to
careful,
do
huh?
it.
I was told, especially on Shabbos, that you should wipe it. You should in between the lines, because otherwise you can take off a letter.
Especially if the letters are already cracking.
Okay. So Amar Rava. Rava says under a light, they have these like UV lights. Sometimes they can look at what used to be there. After it's erased, and they would use a UV light, they can see that
have a Rishima.
but it's not under regular light. It's gone. Amarava Megillah. Right.
It's called a Rishima.
Amarava Megillah Saita Shekasva Balayla Sula. It was written at night. Rava tells us that it's possible. My time, where do you get this from? Asya Torah Torah. We learn it from a Ksera Shav. It says in one place Torah, it says here Torah. Over here it says Vasala Kain Eskala Torah Zais. The Kain will do all of these laws, this Torah. Over there it says Al Pia Torah Sheri Yeruchav Mishpat. According to the Torah that you will paskin, that you will teach, and according to the law. Ma Mishpat B'Yayim, just like judgment. Mishpat, which means law, judgment, has to be by day. After Megillah Saita B'Yayim, also the writing of the Megillah has to be done by day. Kasval and Mafreya, if they wrote it backwards, they started from there and they wrote it in the wrong. I saw somewhere that originally the languages, we write from right to left in Hebrew. There used to be languages that every line would go back and forth. So you would start going one way and then the next one would go. That was easier on the eyes, that you would go like this. It's just, you weren't able to really follow that. But anyway, this was not the letters for letter. Here it's talking about word by word. They wrote just the words backwards. It started with Rashi says, they wrote Yerech v'lanpil beten v'latspais b'meyayich. Instead of Latspais beten v'lanpil yarech, they wrote it backwards. Okay, so psula, it's possible. The ksiva kasavas alei se'ela. Ki the ksiva, it says these. It means it has to be the emphasis on these. Means it has to be exactly how it's written. Kasva kaidim shet kabbalah shvua. Let's say it was written before she actually accepted on herself the oath. Psula, it's possible. Remember vishpia b'achakach v'kasav. It says he makes her swear, and the verse 23 is that he writes it, and he makes her swear in verse 19. So it has first he has to swear. Kasvi geres psula. If they write it as a letter without sirta, possible. Interesting thesis over here. It's worthwhile to go through this thesis. But here it talks about the sirtat on the sides, maybe more insignificant than the sirtat on the lines. It's based on this. He starts off with a question from Gemara Gittin. It says you're never allowed to write any pasuk without a sirtat. So why over here you're just telling me this has to need sirtat? It always needs it. Okay. The Sefer. Amar Rahman, it says it has to be written in a scroll. And the scroll means the Sefer means that there was sirtat. Sirtat means that the scored, the lines, that it has lines in it.
Saying that that's halakhically to have
Yes. Yeah. What doesn't need to be scored? There's one thing that doesn't need. One thing doesn't need sirtat. I forget.
Scrimmage.
No, was it a Megillah or something?
No,
Megillah needs to be sirtat. Does it need sirtat? But there was one thing that sirtat wasn't marked. Anyway, the way that we did the sirtat by the get, the get also needs to be done with sirtat. We took a board the size of the paper, and he put fishing string through. He made holes on each side, and then he would put the paper on top, and then he would just, with his finger, just go over the lines, and that way the line would be pushing the sirtat would be pushing upward. And we have the sirtat pushing inward, right? It's the opposite, I think. By the sirtat is not protruding out; it's protruding in. By the get, it's protruding out.
Is there a reason for that?
I'm not sure.
Because it's
Because one of them is getting out.
getting out.
Kasva al Shnei Dafin. Let's say it was written in 2 columns, like the way our Sefer Torah is written. Psula. Sefer Echad Amar Rachman Avlei Shnayim has to be a Sefer. It says B'Sefer. It means 1 and not 2. Avlei Shnayim V'Shleishes Sfarim shouldn't be on 2 or 3 Sfarim. That's what I guess we're calling now the columns. We're calling them Sfarim. Kasav ois achas umachak ois achas. Let's say they wrote a word or they wrote a letter and then they erased it into the water and then they wrote the next one and they erased it into the water. Each one, it wasn't fully written before they started erasing it. Kasav ois achas umachak ois achas. All of that is psula. The ksiv asala hakainas kolateres. He has to finish the whole thing before he can start erasing. Boy, Rava. Rava has a question. Well, he can probably scratch out like a regular eraser, not before he erases it in the water. This is we're talking about where he was, he's rushing the guy with the water, saying, "Come on, let's just start erasing it already." So starts erasing and then he writes more.
Then he was never custom.
He was never wrote the whole thing.
You have to write 2 letters that see this. If you did one, supposedly.
Do you remember what happens on Shabbos? If someone writes a letter, erases it, and then writes another letter? Is that possible?
I just thought 1 letter isn't.
No, but he wrote 2 letters, but he erased one before he did the other one. I don't remember what it says. So, boy, Rava has a question. Kasa Beis Megillah, yeah. His exempt. Yeah, no. So, I know that it's forbidden because he can't even write 1 letter. But when you write 2 letters, that's when he's chayav. So if he writes 2 letters, but one of them is already gone by the time he writes the second one, so would he be chayav then? It's a Gemara type question. It must be there somewhere. Yeah, but you have to erase 2 letters to be chayav. He only erased 1 letter. 1 letter. Ibai Rava. Rava has a question. Kasa Beis Megillah l'shtei saitis. Let's say 2 scrolls were written. Umachkan l'tais kais echad, but they erased both of them into 1 cup of water. Interesting.
Split the cup in half.
Remember we said we weren't supposed to. That's coming up, that question.
You
weren't supposed to do
right.
2 sides, but we said that Einos mitzvahs chavilas, but we said that maybe not on the same day at the same time. But we said 2 kayanim doing it.
There was an exception.
I don't know if we said remember what that was?
Maybe it was that they wouldn't see each other, so they wouldn't.
Yeah, it says they shouldn't see each other, but then they would get strength from. Remember what page that was? Yeah. In Mashkin State is on page 8A. In Mashkin State is Kachas Klishe Liba Gaspe Chaverta. Bidin Lemon Shemazel, Lamakra, Isa Lavada, Tanakama Ksiv Isa. Mata, it was Reb Shimon. What's the reason why not? Because the Gemara says, why do you need all of this? Said we're talking about 2 kayanim. Even though you have 2 kayanim, you're still not supposed to do it. That's what we're saying. Tefillin don't need sirta at all, right?
No.
Midiraisa. Sweet. Right.
It's a sheet thing. Without.
Okay.
Excuse me, can you just repeat? So what, back on 8, what was it?
It said, why do you have to tell me this reason? That because one of them will get strength from seeing the other one being. We said, why do you need that reason? You're never supposed to do 2 mitzvahs together. We said, yeah, we're dealing with 2 different kayanim that are doing it. That one is doing this woman, one's doing that woman, and so it's not like doing
the kayanim who were performing.
Right.
Officiate.
It says ksiva l'shma be'inan vayika. They need to be written l'shma, which is good. Or maybe you also need to do mechika l'shma. You have to erase it l'shma. Yeah, can't be erased l'shma. They're both being erased into the same cup. Can't be being erased for this woman. It's all together. Shema would mean specifically for this woman. It was written for her, but it wasn't erased for her. Let's say that that's the rule, that you need to have it erased specifically for her. Let's say you did erase it for her, but then the cups got mixed together. So what do we need two cups? They poured both cups into the same bowl. It was erased for her. Maybe she has to drink what was specifically erased for her, and she's not drinking what's specifically for her because it got mixed. That they have to drink what's there. Let's say they then separated into two different cups. Do we say yesh breira, ayin breira? Do we say that retroactively we'll say that exactly what's in this cup is exactly the one that was meant for her?
So
and the one
Rav Zera was over here with the answer what's going on now.
no, because over there it was impractical. Because over there he said you'll never find a bird that's going to have that much blood. Here, theoretically, a kohen could pour it into this one. I mean, teku. There's a question. I don't know why we have to say that you're dividing it to get the din of breira. You could do the breira just by drinking it without dividing it. I don't know. Boy, Rava. I didn't go through the commentary here. Hishka besiv mahu. If you drink with a straw. Oh, look at this.
There are many different types of straws these days.
Look at the different straw. It's a straw. Wow. Is this really a straw? This?
Take it out. Yeah, that's a straw. Of course. What is it? That's a real straw.
To read.
No, that's a straw from a scallion.
Right.
Oh yeah, this is a
I
scallion.
used to grow those.
This is what do the kids drink? What do the kids drink? The Slurpees.
And then there's a metal one.
A metal one.
Reusable.
That's great.
Poison dart.
Yeah. Beautiful.
So what does
Did
this
you get
Sota
that from the
use?
jeweler?
The site is not supposed to use a straw, but because it's considered not the way of drinking. It's like it has to be. It says kederach shatinaiket sheisin Rashi, so that's how kids drink. But it says or b'shveiferes, or with a reed, I don't know shveiferes, a tube. Derech shtia bekach. Do we consider this the way of drinking? Ayin derech shtia bekach. It's not the way of drinking. I forget. I read some funny article about drinking through if you don't drink.
Oh, they're talking about when it's mixed and they each
not
drink
mixed.
from different
No,
straws.
no, not when it's mixed. Not when it's mixed. They're talking about just when she's supposed to drink it. So if she drinks with a straw, she's not drinking it in the normal manner. Yeah.
Go into the chuppah when the bride takes a
Yeah.
drink. What happens?
No straws.
No straws. Mess up her makeup.
Yeah.
He slurps it.
They use like a white wine, so it
Ah.
doesn't drip on the dress, make it stain. Right?
A bunch of those.
It's
A
all
bunch of
while.
mistakes.
No.
A bunch
No,
of
no, I'm
mistakes.
saying white.
Oh, white wine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not at that point. Right. Teku. This is a question. Let's say it's spilled out, but there's still a little left. Can you still use that? Teku. Use what's left. Amar Rab Zera, Amar Rav. Rab Zera says in the name of Rav. Okay. Why does it have to say twice? She takes an oath. One was before it was erased. One is for after the Megillah was erased. Maskef la Rava, but Rava says 1 second. In the text, they're both written before it was erased. It says, makes her swear in verse 19. In verse 21, he makes her swear b'shvos Allah with the contains a curse. And then in the Umacha in verse 23, he erased. So Rava says, one of them has a curse in it, one of them doesn't have a curse. How do you have an oath that has a curse? I'm making you swear, I'm administering an oath to you that you were not impure. Because if you are impure, you're going to get all the problems, all the explosion. Rava says that's an oath with a curse. The curse was independent of the oath. You just said it in one sentence, but that doesn't mean that it's a curse and an oath. That's a curse and an oath. That's two separate things. Rava says, I'm making you swear that if you're guilty, you're going to explode.
That bich is an interesting.
Yeah. Amar Ravashi says, Allah ikashwaleka. Over there, you only have a curse. You don't have an oath. What is she swearing? What is she swearing to? Elamar Ravashi says, I'm making you swear that you're not guilty. The imnitves yavabach. And if you are guilty, then you're going to get this. So what's switching over here is like it switches a shin to a vav. And by Rava, it says, I'm making you swear, well, the first Rav Amram rather, I'm making you swear that you're not guilty, because if you are guilty, then you're going to get this. Those are two independent statements. According to Ravashi, I'm making you swear that you're not guilty. And if you're guilty, then you're going to get this. And that's considered like an oath that has this curse in it. Okay. When she says Amen, Amen, which means she's accepting it, what is she saying she's accepting? Amen Allah Allah, she's accepting the curse. Amen Allah Shvur, she's accepting the oath. She's basically swearing that she's innocent, and if not, she's accepting on herself the curse. Amen Me'eshzeh, Amen Me'eshacher. She's accepting on herself that she wasn't guilty with this adulterer or with any other adulterer. She didn't have relations with. Amin shalei shatis arusa unasua v'shemeres yama. She's actually accepting that, and at other stages as well, she never committed adultery, not just in this scenario. Even when she was betrothed, she didn't commit it, or or after she's married, or shemeres yavam, or when she was. If right now she's married to the yavam, she's promising, she's swearing that she wasn't guilty. Right now on the top of Yud. That she wasn't guilty from before this actual marriage. She's swearing that she's not guilty. And if she is guilty, then she's going to have that punishment. She's accepting on herself the oath, and she's accepting on herself the curse. Rav Meir says, Amin shlei netmesi, Amin shlei etma hakol shavim. She's actually taking an oath that she's never going to commit adultery again. Why does she have to take that oath? Not because just because she's married, so she automatically has oath. She's saying is that what he's saying is that not again in the future. In the future. That if she does commit adultery in the future, she's going to explode. She's gonna blow up.
That's kind of weird. If she is correct, it doesn't.
If she's drinking the water now, if anytime in the future she commits adultery, she explodes. No. In the future.
Oh, without the whole
Yeah.
thing, it'll
Yeah.
be instantaneous
Yeah.
combustion.
Right.
Whoa. That's enough to stop her.
If she doesn't,
Right.
if she doesn't,
She's fine. All good.
if she commits adultery, she doesn't explode.
Oh, not if she doesn't explode. That's not an option.
Then we'll
She's
say
going
that
to explode.
the witnesses were in another
I
country.
see.
That's some other excuse.
They don't say it's like,
Says,
a race, though.
Right. She'ein masnim alei al kedem shetisaris alei al acher shetiskaris. What is it? She'ein masnim. You can't make a condition that anything before their betrothal or after she gets divorced. Now, what happens is like this. Alei al kedem shetis nistru la'acher le'achad. What's the aleph here? Nistru le'achad v'nitmis. V'achar kach ichsira lo haya masnima. Different versions to this. Okay, whatever. Let's say she gets divorced and she has relations with a man, and then she wants to go back to her husband. So she really can go back to her husband. It's only she can't marry another man and then go back to her husband. But if she didn't marry him, she just had relations with him, then she actually can go back to the husband. So it says that's not a problem. The rule is anytime she has relations and it doesn't make her forbidden to her husband, that can't be part of this condition. No, it has to be actually a fiducian. It has to be a marriage. So he's married, he marries this woman. Yeah. And Ruvain marries Ruvena. And then he divorces her. She has relations with Shimon, so she can still go back to Ruvain. But if she marries Shimon, then she can't go back to Ruvain. So when he's making her take this oath, he can't say that if you get divorced, or let's say after they're remarried, you can't claim that you had relations with someone else before we were remarried, because that would not make. Has to be someone that would have made him forbidden, and that instance would have made them would not have made them forbidden.
She had relations with Simon, who wasn't Jewish, it would be the same thing. Even if she married Simon,
Right. That's interesting.
This is adultery. She's not married. So that she gets divorced, has relations with somebody else without getting married.
And then she goes back to her first husband.
So she's
claimed.
she's not guilty of adultery.
Right.
Get divorced, tell her you can have a good time.
Right.
In case do you happen to know when the practice of Sota was actually ended by the rabbis? I know it preceded the Korban.
I don't know. Yeah, because
precede the Korban. We
Yeah.
definitely ended with the Korban.
Yeah, but preceded it because it wasn't working, because people weren't believing it and taking it seriously. So there's a psychological element. The rabbis put an end to it.
Interesting. Amar Rav Hamnuna. Rav Hamnuna says, "Shemeres yavam shezinsa asura liyavama." Rav Hamnuna has a big chiddush. Let's say there's a woman that's married to a man. Ruvain is married to Ruvena, and Ruvain passes away. So now Ruvena is going to marry Shimon,
The brother.
and the brother, and she's supposed to be waiting. She's supposed to be waiting for Shimon. She's not supposed to marry anyone else, right? Unless do chalitza. But she has she has relations with another man. So Rav Hamnuna says she's not allowed to now marry the Yavama. It's as if she had an affair with her, as if she committed adultery. She can't continue with her husband. Imai, how do you know this? It says mi diktani, from the fact that the Mishnah teaches Shemeres Yavam Kanusa. It says that when we make the woman drink the water, we administer an oath. And the oath contains that she didn't commit adultery while she was a Shemeres Yavam, while she was waiting to do Yibam. And if we would say, it is good if we say, you see that abbreviation? You have an abbreviation, it is good if we say that she's forbidden to the Yavam. That's why he makes that condition, because she's actually forbidden. And therefore, he can say that he didn't have any relations during that time. But if you say that she's not forbidden, how could he make that condition with her? But that's clearly that if they would have relations and she would still be permissible to her husband, then that wasn't part of this oath. It's a good point. Amri Marava, they said in Eretz Yisrael, less hilchas Rav Hamnuna. The halacha is not like Rav Hamnuna. We have a Mishnah. The Mishnah says that she would be forbidden to her husband. It says no, that Mishnah is Rabbi Akiva. You see, for a woman that's waiting for Yibam to have relations with someone is a negative prohibition. It's not an Isser Karis. She's supposed to be waiting for Chalitza or for marriage. But Rabbi Akiva holds that a negative prohibition, relations of a woman that has a negative prohibition on, is such a strong prohibition that they can't even be considered married. They don't even need a get. And it's as if it's an Issachar. It's the same rules of an Issachar as like someone marrying their sister or something. There's no marriage that you don't need a get. Rabbi Kiva holds the same thing that over here also, that it's no marriage at all, and it's considered like an Issachar, even though somebody has the same rules as that. It would create a mamzer, I think. And if that's the case, so then it would make her forbidden to her husband, according to Rabbi Akiva.
And this is when she's a Yavam.
Yeah. But it's machlekes. Into Yibam, yeah, she's waiting, and she didn't do Chalitza either. And Rabbi Akiva would say that she's prohibited to the husband, and that's why our Mishnah is followed. That's how our Mishnah is followed. But we don't hold like that. Boy, Rabbi Yirmiyah. Rabbi Yirmiyah has a question. Mao sheyisna adam al nesuin rishonim al nesui yochid. Mao. Let's say, is this two cases? In your Gemara, do you have this two cases? On the Sunnah Rishonim is the case where, as if he was married to her first and then he divorced her and then he remarried her. On the Sui Yachav is, he says that he's doing the Yibam now. He wants to know if she had an affair while she was married to the brother. Tashima, here's the rules. But if it would be prohibited, which in this case it would be, because if she did have an affair in the first marriage, or if she did have an affair while she was married to the brother, then this person wouldn't be allowed to marry her. If that's the case, then he can put that into the shvua. This is called Gilgal shvua, where you roll in other things into the oath. Okay, this is the process. This is a rabbinic. This is a biblical oath.
Say the Bama has relations with someone else, and then she does even after. Like, how would they want to know how to enforce that? It's just
So if while she was married to the first brother, she had relations, then she's prohibited to the Yavam. If she was permitted to the husband, she was prohibited to the husband. After he died, then she actually can marry, according to she can marry the Yavam. According to the halacha, it's only Rabbi Akiva that said no. We're not going to follow that. Should we leave it over here? Let's leave it over here. Okay. Oh my gosh, really? Okay. Have a good day, everyone.